everyone. I'm Michelle Bell, and welcome to Marketing Masters, where we interview the top marketing minds of our time, diving into the strategies and branding tactics that make them masters in their space. Today, we have the CEO of Valor Media, Michael Valor, and his company is one of the top PR fame engineering firms in the country, responsible for building some of the largest brands on the internet. One thing they focus on is fame engineering, which I'm really excited to learn more about, is basically taking someone that nobody knows from digital obscurity to really positioning them, their brand, as a thought leader in their space. We've really seen this happen more in the last 5 years, and big brands are missing out, but personal small brands are really winning big with this. They've taken Dr. John Jaquish and made him a celebrity phenomenon on social media. A lot of different shows and podcasts really expand the reach for Ed Milet and many, many more. They also do impact marketing, which he'll speak more about, which is TV placements, really social media growth, and really has taken the concept of the walk to fame, what people do to reach fame online and why that is so important. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited to chat with you. So let us know what separates the Valor Media from the crowd and lets you make your noise in this busy space.
I think a lot of people, as soon as social media started expanding and becoming like the thing and the place to be, because it was a fad. I mean, people don't realize how fast this industry has expanded. We're talking like in the last decade, it went from maybe my kids are on it to now Coca-Cola is spending hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars
Yes.
on impacting people through this, and taking influencers seriously and building their like the digital brand seriously. And so this rapidly changing industry has become extremely important. And that's where the birth of a lot of PR brands and firms came from, right? So a lot of people started turning into SMMA, right? Social media management agencies, where they would take people's social media, and it kind of got like mechanical, is what I felt. It was like, it got to a place where it was like, well, we're growing slowly, we're posting slowly, the content's not creative. And then you get this like niche based following of maybe 100,000 followers tops, right? And where Valor Media has taken people to the next gen is what we call the walk to fame, right? And so this is a term I coined by watching Grant Cardone or Gary Vee or Ed Milet, and these people who in the beginning started like everybody else, you know, 0 followers, right? What positioned them differently to where it's like, oh, I'm meeting Grant Cardone now. Like I'm shaking hands with Gary Vee from my let. What positioning changed? And it's the walk to fame. And so we coined this term for a 4-phase process of taking people from I don't know who this is to I'm nervous to meet them, basically.
So very strategic, a way to really build someone's personal brand.
Right. I mean, the thing about it is like people get super specific about when they start their, especially small businesses, like they start their brand online, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, right? They dilute between all those platforms, and then they grow slow, and they're trying to like pinpoint individual followers. Like I want this person at this gas station, this person around the corner. And then you see the brands that are doing the multi-millions, right? Like 10, 50, $100 billion brands that are just like welcoming everybody. I want as many followers as I can get. It's the shotgun approach, right? I want to appear bigger than I am. It's all about positioning on the walk to fame. So like our first phase that we do is growth, right? So what we want to deem is now we're getting 50,000 views on every single post, 100,000, 150,000 views. We've got 100,000 followers, right? The idea here is to create the perception that number one, everybody's watching us. And number two, we're blowing up. We're omnipotent digitally, right? And so that'll move us into our next phase where it's like credibility. Now it's like, okay, now people are watching this guy or this brand, and it's like, what do we do next? Where like, how do we prove ourselves that we're thought leaders? People do business like, and I talk about this all the time, like, why do you drink Coca-Cola over Pepsi, right? Like, or why McDonald's over Burger King? Why does Burger King struggle and McDonald's is doing well, right? Very similar product. I mean, the quality is not too much different. The brand and positioning of it is what's changing the dynamic and the purchasing habits of all of these consumers, right? And so we move into phase 2 where it's like credibility. Now we're starting to get our people published on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Maxim, right? We're trying to get them on these large scale publications and shape the narrative of who this person is, right? We've done this with the big names, like I told you, like whether it's Jordan Belfort or Ed Milet or Dr. John Jaquish, right? Taking these people and saying, okay, how do we want to frame them in 2022? What does it feel like when you see them, right? And so that moves us into phase two. And that's what we've been trying to accomplish for just about everybody we work with.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. So, what are the three key points, would you say, to doing that? I know there's a lot of, strategy to that, but what's the three key points to your brand and marketing?
I think when it comes to branding in general, it's how do people feel when they see you? And a lot of the times people don't realize this. This is like a human facet. Okay. There's memory involved. Okay. Humans forget and they like to feel justified. So when we tell them, hey, my brand is this, my brand is for Nike, for instance, my brand is stoic, my brand is strong, my brand is fast, right? And so that's what they want to associate themselves with. So they start wearing Nike, right? Even McDonald's, for instance, right? Like it's just an upper scale product. Like celebrities eat McDonald's. People like, well, like you follow me?
Yes.
It becomes a norm instead of like who eats at Burger King.
Right.
Like what type of
Like,
person
who
eats
isn't
Burger
eating at McDonald's?
King? Right? And so that concept has been driven into these people's heads, all these consumers, through positioning of the brands. So it's not just the individual marketing or just the one-time content. It's really, and this is what we call impact marketing, is where we're telling people like, think this, associate me with this color, this idea, this feeling, this is the guy or brand that I am.
Yes. It's even like people forget what you're selling, but it's really how you made them feel. When they look at you, do they relate to you? How you make them feel. And that's really
One
portraying.
of the best things that I ever heard in the branding and PR space is what people say about your brand when you're not in the room is your branding,
Yeah.
right? What people are talking about when you're not around is the branding that your company has portrayed in the marketplace.
So I bet that's a piece of your advice. What would you recommend to people starting to really get to, start marketing themselves? They really want to position themselves to grow, but they don't think they're worth it yet. Maybe they don't think they have a brand. What would you recommend?
I mean, I would say like, what do you want to idealize yourself as, and what do you want people to say about you in the market, right? Then take away your limiting beliefs of growth. Okay, like the idea is grow as big as you can, get as many followers, as many likes, as many comments as possible, and don't get nitpicky. And then move into the second phase, right? Where it's like, now how do I apply credibility and get people writing about what it is I want them to be saying? And then we move them into phase three, where it's collabs. I mean, collabs are the most important thing to be doing in 2022. And the only way you're going to get those, because this comes up a lot, is like, how do I get to collab with thought leaders in my space? Well, they want to work with people of similar social value, right? And so if I go to them and I say, I have 100,000 followers, I get 150,000 views on every single post, I'm verified on all my platforms, I got blue check, blue check, blue check, right? And they see that, they're like, okay, well, I want to work with this guy, I'll take his message, right? And now we're utilizing all of their outlets. And that's our phase three of the walk to fame, is utilizing the outlets of other thought leaders in our space. And so moving into that, because how are these people going to see you unless you're doing paid media, right? And you're doing advertising. How are these people even going to see you? You're posting, and a set amount of percentage of your followers are even seeing that content in the first place. Very small. And everyone knows, like, who is trying to grow on Instagram, like, that's going down. Less and less of your followers are seeing your stuff, and you that, you feel that. It's like, how do I utilize other people's followers? And it's all through collabs. How do I do collabs? Do the walk to fame. You have to position yourself as a big enough person that someone would want to collab with you in the first place.
And get with the right marketing firm, I think, too, that has those relationships with those people to connect those dots.
Do it.
So I'm sure there's a whole backstory how you got into this, but I'm sure you've read a few books that maybe has inspired you. I know you've rubbed shoulders with a lot of people and helped a lot of people that have read incredible books that I've read. But what are the three books you recommend to our viewers, to our audience?
Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vee is huge.
Okay.
That was like one of my first ones, because at the end of the day, we're in a place where professional content isn't working as well as just like authentic, like you just throw the phone up, make the stuff, say what's on your mind, right? And as long as you stay on pace, like, you don't realize that Gary Vee is saying the same things over and over again for the last 10 years. He's just twisting them. He's saying them different. He's lighting them up in a different way. He's portraying them and pouring out different verbiage, but it's the same message, right? It's empathy, it's kindness, it's awareness, it's time, right? And so to me, it was important to realize, like, okay, well, we need to keep jabbing our audience over and over again, because what happens is the attention spans are so short in 2022. Right? You get off the phone, boom, I forgot. I don't remember anything. I'm thinking about what's for dinner, or taking care of the dog, or going to the vet, or I have a beach trip coming up, right? And that's normal human life. That's the consumers you want to be buying your products life. And so how do I consistently jab my message to them? So then they hear my name and they associate it with these words. And these words build the know, like, trust funnel, right? And so I think where Gary Vee really impacted the market is he talked about what we do in phase 4, which is building their media platforms. Red Bull TV, right? We worked with a brand called Chronic Tacos for a long time. Incredible restaurant. Okay. Yeah, they're really good. And so we worked with them on their marketing for several years. And like my suggestion to them has always been Taco TV. And it's like, well, why? Because like, how does that sell tacos? It promotes a lifestyle that is alternative, right? It shows what people who need to be eating, what's their target market, right? The people that are eating chronic tacos, what do they like? How do we show them content that they can consume when they're not consuming the food, right?
True.
And so Red Bull TV got to show people what is Red Bull mean. Red Bull means it gives you wings, like BMX, right? The surfers, the skateboarders, these hardcore guys who are just like pouring themselves into like dangerous sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did dangerous sports get connected to Red Bull, right? And it's by creating their own media platforms. And so that's what I would suggest is always the objective is build your credibility, growth credibility as your phase 2, right? So now you're big and you're credible. Then we start positioning ourselves to collab with a bunch of other people in our space. So now people say, oh, well, this guy worked with him and this guy worked with him. We call it the stair step method. So if I get Jordan Belfort to have a meeting with, you know, let's say Drake, okay, it's like, well, he just met with Drake. Now he meets with X, you know, well, not much above Drake, but you know what I mean, you know? And so that's the concept, right? And your brand needs to do that. So identify the key influencers. Let's collab with them. They will collab with you when you're big enough and you look big enough. And then stair step your way to where now you're surrounded by the biggest and best in your space to the point where you can go into phase 4 and I say, here's my own media platform. Here's what I stand for. This is what we're about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a hard sales pitch about your company. It just has to be the feeling of what you're trying to have your customers like provide.
Right. And by phase 4, you've already built that integrity because the relationships that you have and all the people that you've connected with, that's kind of built that up for them. I like that. Okay. So if you had 10 times the budget that you have now for a client or for your business, what would you spend it on and why?
I think a couple things. You've got in-person interviews are probably like one of my favorite things to drop money on, especially because it helps that stair step method, right? Like we had clients who get to work with celebrities. You have Terrell Owens, and we did this for John Jaquish. Terrell Owens come in and work out with your product, and then all of a sudden, Miami Heat's in your DMs, and the UFC's in your DMs, and now we're shooting with Forrest Griffin and Dana White, right? And so the names start to connect the dots to where if I had some extra money, it'd be like, well, let me get in the right rooms, right? Let me get on the right podcast. Let me get on TV and build that credibility so that when I do reach out to someone, they take it seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I like that. And I think we've kind of gotten away a little bit from that in person so that it's such an impact when you can see two people together talking about the same thing and on the same page, and it builds it.
You would be surprised. Valor Media, like one of the things we do is we book podcasts for people, right? We book people on podcasts in their space. And so you'd be surprised at how many times, like I've had a client who is paid to meet Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, or Brad Lee from Dropping Bombs, or Ed Milet, right? And they get in the rooms and they shake their hands, and now there's a connection. Like there's a network made. So much business comes from this. It's not just, oh, the people who watch the show could buy my product. It is, I now know Jordan Belfort, and what does that come? Yeah, what comes from that, right?
So do you think that's the next wave of marketing then? The in-person?
I think the next wave of marketing is going to be building up that original network and then moving into everybody, and every single brand will have their own personal media platform. Bojangles should have their own media platform. You know, like there is Bojangles TV, and there are things like if they had Jeff Foxworthy on there, or they had like lumberjack competitions or hunting shows, whatever. I mean, whatever their target market, and they have the analysis to be able to tell like what the opposite interests are, right? And so take your target market, take their interests, build a platform around it, so that when they're not consuming your product, whether that's a shirt or a burger or a car, they're not consuming that, they're consuming your content. And now they're not just fans, they're not just customers, they're evangelists, right? Like they're watching your show when you're not even eating at the restaurant. And that's the important thing for me.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this up in a tiny little bow at the end here. There's so much good nuggets of information that I've taken notes myself. I'm sure our audience has. But what's something everybody in your industry, I think you've kind of hit on this, should stop or start doing?
I think immediately do your Instagram reels and Instagram stories. If you are not setting up a ring light and talking to it, okay, and like just putting your captions below you, it's super easy to edit it. There's softwares for it. It's dumb simple. Whether you're a Fortune 500 company or you're a tiny mom and pop, all you need to be doing is talking to the camera, say what you feel, break it up into little segments, right?
Yeah.
5, 10 videos, nothing crazy, and then be putting that on TikTok, be putting that on Reels, and whatever the next big thing is, like when this launches, in 6 months, who knows? It might be YouTube shorts that are popping off, right? And so following that trend and making that short form video content has changed people's lives.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. If you're just starting out small business, definitely recommend, rubbing shoulders with a firm like this that can really just help you level up your business and your brand. Thank you, Michael Valor. I'm Michelle Bell. Thank you so much for joining me for Marketing Masters, and I'll catch you next time.